The second to the left in that row by the wall. Seems like like 5 feet from hell. Nothing seems like
It's the cutest grandbaby in the world.
I bet.
She had soccer practice tonight.
Wasn't she just like a year old?
Two. Practice for it.
Kurt, can you hear us all right? Supervisor Lund, can you hear us all right? Supervisor Herbst, can you hear us all right? You're muted, but I think you mouthed you can hear us.
You don't have.
Oh, it seems to be working now. I don't know what the problem is. Well, no, but I don't remember the same. Maybe it's muted. Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Herbst, just so you know, you are muted, so if you need to talk, just unmute yourself, okay?
Welcome to Jefferson County Board meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. It's 7 o'clock. A roll call by the county clerk.
Tell them you're not getting a picture, you're not seeing the meeting. Tell them you're not getting the there you go. Okay. I unmuted you. They muted you from their end.
Madam,
Not hearing anything though.
Madam Clerk, mine is under construction right at the moment. So you can mark me present. It's not working.
They're coming through. It's coming through. It's coming through.
You're not muted.
We have 28 present and 2 absent.
I got problems over here with mine. It was working out quick.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Supervisor Zarling, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take a moment of silence. Think about this week of 9/11 and what it means to us. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Compliance open meetings law.
We are, Mr. Chair.
I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second. So moved by Supervisor Backlund and seconded by Supervisor Paulson. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Takes us to special order of business, public hearing on Jefferson County Board Supervisor Tentative Redistricting Plan. Is there anybody here to speak on the redistricting that didn't sign up? I have.
Move to open. We should officially move to open, Mr. Chair.
Oh, we needed a motion to open the hearing, the public hearing. So moved by Supervisor Paulson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Morris. So the hearing's open. Anybody here to speak on the redistricting plan? I have nobody signed up. Anybody? Calling once. Calling twice. Motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
So moved by Supervisor Jekyll, second by Supervisor Morse. All in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The hearing is closed. Approval of minutes from August 10th, 2021. Supervisor Renard.
I move approval of the minutes as presented.
Second.
Supervisor Schultz?
No, I just seconded it.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any additions, subtractions, anything? Any comments? Minutes? All in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Communications.
First, we have the notice of planning and zoning public hearing, which is this Thursday, September 16th at 7 p.m. in room 205. And then you should also have the treasurer's report on your desk. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, we have public comment on agenda items. We have 12 people signed up, so we can give 3 minutes each. If they all have public comment, start with Paul Elliott.
Chairman, can we put our minutes together?
Sure.
So I would like to read Paul and I.
All right.
Go up to the microphone.
Please come up to the podium here.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the fall of 2020, the Farmington Board approved our proposal for a private gathering house. In January and August 2021, our proposal to rezone from A3 to A2 was denied. Prior to purchasing the Sausage Drive property in 2020, it was rezoned from an A1 to an A2. In 2006, it was then rezoned from A2 to A3. Couldn't it be an A2 again? We are only asking for a one-step change in our zoning. Economic development. We believe our gathering place will be financially beneficial to many area businesses, including bed and breakfasts, bakeries, caterers, photographers, florists, salons, restaurants, taverns, shopping, and more. Our gathering house, along with the barn venues, are strong supporters of local businesses. We will be open from 0 to 4 days a week, with likely 1 week off per month. Our venue opens depending on the event scheduled, and it closes no later than 10 p.m. We understand why the zoning committee may be confused with where our property line is. Our property does, in fact, go into the trees, of which we will be removing some parking stalls. We are 66 feet from the shared driveway. Our approved driveway is approximately 15 feet. Parking stall needs to be 18 feet in length, and we will also have 10-foot green space between the shared driveway and our new driveway. 15 plus 18 plus 10 equals 43. That leaves us 23 extra feet not used. Below are 3 examples of venues approved by zoning in 2021. The Falker Hebron Event Center, P&J Falker Trust, was approved in February 2021, the exact same time ours was denied. The rezoned Falker structure is on a 1.3 acre property. Ours is 2 acres. One of the reasons we were denied was because our property is too small. It was noted we are not ag-related. Are the events inside the Falker structure ag-related? If not, the only difference is the shape of the barn, and the other is like a castle. We are not in competition with the Falkers or any other barn-shaped venues. It should be a positive thing to have different venue styles to bring more clientele to Jefferson County. Doula Lake Mills Event Center was approved in June of 2021. The Doula structure is on a 1.731 acre property and has a number of A1, A2, and A3 properties surrounding it. Zoning mentioned we would be a disruption to area households. Ours is on 2 acres again and is only visible to the renter home behind us, of which the occupants do not oppose. Absolutely no one else in our area can even see our home from Saucer Drive or any of the surrounding area. We are completely surrounded by trees. At our original hearing, there was discussion regarding traffic safety on Saucer Drive. All of the Doula property traffic is coming down County Road S and crosses the Glacial Drumlin Trail, which has a significant amount of bicycle and foot traffic. There is a greater chance for incidents from a county road and the trails than from our rural road. The Mending Palmyra Event Center was approved, I don't know when it was approved, but this year. History of this property is confusing. It appears it was approved to rezone from industrial to A3 in April of 2021. However, the conditional use permit states it was an A2 property, but according to the Jefferson County website, it's A2. It's not A2, it's either industrial Ag 3. Again, this one is confusing. The Marion petition requested to create 3 new building sites for homes and are creating an event center from an existing old manufacturing building, which is not an ag building. After the first hearing, Paul and I made whole every issue that was discussed, including parking, obtaining our permit for our own driveway, gathering hundreds of signatures, including a number who were originally opposed and are no longer against our proposal. Overall, we've been met with terrific enthusiasm from individuals and local businesses. Though nearly half of the households in our immediate surroundings support us, most told us that they are afraid to attend this meeting for fear of retribution from the opposition. The only opposition at the second hearing was from the family who owns the 36 acres around our parcel. The concern is that our home will decrease the value of their property, when in fact they just sold off a 2-acre parcel 300 yards from our home for $90,000. The couple who purchased that property already understood what our plans were for our home and our gathering house. The owners of the 36 acres, formerly 38 acres, purchased it for $272,500 in December of 2018. They've already recouped 1/3 of their costs by selling off 1 2-acre parcel. We very seldom see the owners of the 36-acre property other than when they store their boat/ATVs or once or twice to mow their field area. We've been here for 14 months and have only seen their children 1 time for 20 minutes. I'm home 24/7 and my office faces the shared driveway. Let's see. They cannot, how can they complain about us bothering their peaceful surroundings when they are very rarely on the property and is certainly not for family gatherings? They cannot unequivocally say that they will be building in the future or plan to spend time here. The past 14 months have proven that. That is supposition. Our zoning permit request is in the here and now. Our gatherings will be mostly held inside. Our elegant venue would be closed at 10 p.m. No one will be wandering the area after hours. There's a tavern just a few miles from our home. Are there people wandering around when that tavern is closed? Or the same with the other event centers? Our venue can be regulated just as any other business in Jefferson County. Regarding extra vehicles causing harm to Saucer Drive, cars driving to our gathering place will cause far less damage to roads than do the large construction, excavation, utility, and farming vehicles on Saucer Drive every day. In fact, 1 empty 18-ton truck on a single pass causes damage equal to 3,600 cars. An average gathering will have 15 to 25 vehicles. Noise level. Our venue is a unique experience focused on elegance as opposed to boisterous party menus such as barns, convention centers, bars, bowling alleys, and the like. There will be no outside music, live or otherwise. There will be no outdoor games such as bag toss and volleyball. We recently discovered from 3 separate residents in our area, a property owner less than 2 miles from us has had large events. Though we have absolutely no problem with this, is this an approved venue? The past zoning decision meeting mentioned there are no businesses in our immediate area. In fact, there are 4 in a 1-mile radius from us. On Saucer Drive, there's an industrial roofing materials removables with a huge shed and many large trucks. I don't think that's ag. Koshkanon Road, excavating company, huge trucks on the road all the time. Is that ag? Ranch Road, dog kennel and motorcycle fix-it shop. Are those eggs? Those owners, by the way, are not opposed to our petition. And there are more non-ag businesses within 2 to 5 miles from our area. Paul and I put all of our finances into our home. Though we've only been in our home for a year, the transformation has been incredible. Paul and I are doing all the work ourselves. Creating this space and obtaining permits for the gathering house has been stressful and exhausting more than anyone could possibly imagine. There have been countless tears and frustration, yet we still have hope. There are hundreds of people who support us and only a small handful who oppose. We humbly ask you to please allow our dream for this unique and magical place in Jefferson County and beyond to become a reality by helping us approve our application. Thank you.
We will please refrain from cheering or comment. Fran Vondre.
Thank you for saying my name correctly. That's unusual in this area.
I'm from Lake Mills. There's a lot of Vondres there.
Good evening. Like he said, my name is Fran Vondre, and I live on Little Coffee Road, approximately a mile and a half north of Wisteria Castle. I did write everything out because those of you who might know me, I know a few you do, I know I can get really long-winded. So, I'm here tonight to support Diane and Paul's endeavor to obtain a license to run a small business from their home, Wisteria Castle. I believe that small businesses are the backbone of our small communities. Number two is, since I live in the area, I have heard many rumors about the intention of the business's plan. Many of those rumors are incorrect. So I would like to share with you what I know about their small business plan. Their small business plan includes no more than 50 attendees at any event, whether it's a wedding, a business meeting, a birthday party, a retirement party, a baby shower, a retreat, no more than 50 people. They are willing to install and already have plans to install their own driveway on their own land, so they would not be using the shared access road. They are also willing to put in parking on their own land, and it is the hunk of land that comes from Saucer Road up to the castle. All events will end at 10 p.m. according to the business plan. The business plan says there will be no loud music. In fact, they're hoping for flutes and harps and violins. All activities will be held inside the castle. I have heard many rumors in my community, and we have some local gossip people, as every community does, who talk about these huge weddings and beach parties and polka music. None of that is in the plan. And the outbuilding, that apparently has been a big point of contention, will be used for storage. There will be no beer parties in the outbuilding. As I see it, this could also be another opportunity for other local businesses: florists, caterers, photographers, cleaners, window washers. If you've seen the castle, there's lots of windows. Landscapers. As a side note, as Diane mentioned, there are many small businesses in our area. You know, the castle is an unusual building, built in an unusual spot, and purchased under unusual circumstances. Would it be possible to think outside the box and allow them to have a license that has the caveat of being for 1 year? And during that 1 year, we could determine whether or not they're living up to their small business plan. Could they have a chance to do that? Could we look at the cup, you know, that proverbial cup, as being half full rather than totally empty? Thank you.
Thank you. Garrett Miller? Garrett Miller?
Garrett Miller.
Oh, Garrett and Sherry, I'm
And
sorry.
Sherry Miller.
And
yeah.
Sherry Miller.
Yep.
My mistake.
Husband and wife, and we live on 1001 Marie Lane in Johnson Creek. And for years we had watched the castle being built and just were amazed on how beautiful it was. And recently we got to meet them, Diane and Paul, and got to tour the castle. And we totally support this wonderful venue. We just think it's going to bring so much business in for our local small business. We're all about small business and supporting them. And we just can't say enough. Hopefully you all vote that they get licensed for this and give them a chance. So yeah, it's a beautiful home,
Right.
beautiful venue. It'll bring lots of great memories for people for years to come. if they can have weddings there and.
They don't.
So we support
Yeah.
the castle.
Thank you. And Pete Charles?
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm wearing this not as a representative of Zerns. I'm a salesperson there. So one point on that, they have already lifted a local business. They've bought a tremendous amount of product from us, and for that we're thankful. But I'm actually here representing the Catherine Hawley House. We are a luxury bed and breakfast in Watertown. We came to meet Paul and Diane through some shared contacts and absolutely support what they're doing. They are certainly, as a complementary business, something that we would benefit from, personally and in our business, but also for just the lodging establishments in general in the area. They bring more people. They have no intention of having people stay in their house. They've told us very clearly they don't want to be a bed and breakfast. So that is something that will be shared with the community. One of the things that we had heard was that there was some objection about it being an event castle as opposed to an event barn. And I had done a little bit of research and did a quick Google search for event barns near me. And within a 25-mile radius of Watertown, there are over 20 event barns. There are 0 event castles. If you expand that circle to a 100-mile radius from Watertown, there are 2. One of them is a converted church, and one of them is a building that was built in a somewhat Gothic style and is styling themselves as an event castle. This is a tremendously unique opportunity for them, for local businesses, for this county to have a draw for people that would come here, people that would come and spend money in our local businesses that have already been mentioned, the florists and the bakeries and all the other things that would go along with running events. I'm not sure how more strongly to word that this is a tremendous benefit for the community and for the businesses in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Klein?
I'll pass. Thank you.
Okay.
You said it better than I could. Thank you.
Patty Strobush then. I thank everybody tonight too. They use good penmanship.
I've known Paul and Diane for 20 plus years. I'm from Cambridge, and where they used to live, and I've seen their dream to buy a castle and have this venue for 20 years. They've been looking into it. We've worked together on the Cambridge Historic School and Museum, and they've researched everything. I've watched it from last September till I visited again in August and have seen the progress. They're doing a wonderful job, and it would be a very wonderful venue for people to take advantage of. So I recommend highly that you approve that. Thank you.
And Jeff Paul Otten. Oh, excuse me. Tony Prisk first. Tony Prisk.
I'm Tony Prisk, born and raised here in Jefferson County. Just last Saturday, I stopped over at Paul and Diane's house. I pulled up on my motorcycle. I seen the garage door open, and Paul came out and introduced himself and asked me if I wanted to come in and check out the castle. I said, absolutely. So we walked in. We seen the venue. They're doing everything they could possibly think of. They asked me if I wanted to see the chapel, the meeting place. It's set up for 40, 50 people. I think you guys should strongly recommend that they get the chance to do this. Thank you.
Now Joseph Paul Otten.
Hey guys. So I'm Joe. I run a bakery in Watertown. It would obviously be useful for me monetarily if they were to use me. I don't really care if they do. But to me, it's about letting them have the dream. I mean, this is America. Rezone it. Let them use it. If they do stuff that's wrong, if it gets too noisy, there's already laws for that. So just let that cover it. If it gets too, misbehaved, I assume you're going to hear about it. So, and there's probably already laws for that. So I guess I just don't really understand what's the holdup. You know what I'm saying? This is America. Let it happen. If problems occur, take care of it the way we always do. There's laws for like literally everything. So that's all I got to say. And hopefully you guys just think about that and let them live the dream. So thanks.
And Wendy Crew. Okay. And then Joyce Wickman, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I totally agree that they should be allowed to do this. That castle is not a farm, and there's nothing else they're going to use that for. It's a lot of space. It's their dream. They put all their money into this and hard work. And how can anybody deny a dream? This is a time when we're having enough trouble out in the world. And I think that everybody can understand that we don't need any more heartache. It's just a good idea to let them try this. Like the other man said, there's laws for things that might come up that if they're too loud or too rowdy, and I don't think they would be. Thank you.
Okay, that completes public comment. Was there anybody else for public comment that hadn't signed in? Anyone else? Okay. And reports. County Clerk, Audrey McGraw.
I don't know why this is so strange to stand here versus sit. It's very weird. So you all have my annual report in front of you. I won't spend any time on that. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to talk to me about it. I would just like to say a few things regarding the past 2 election years. First off, I never would have guessed that the 2019 election year would be the calm before the tsunami. 2020 was nothing short of challenging, to say the least. Whether it was ballot printers leaving us in the cold, litigation making it impossible to even print ballots to meet our tight deadlines, or just the pressure of the media, 2020 was a tough year. At times, it felt like if there was anything that could have gone wrong, it did. Times where I doubted myself and my abilities. When elections became the focus of the nation, I wasn't sure I could handle the pressure. In less than 1 year, I learned more about my job, specifically elections and open records requests, than I ever thought possible. I also learned more about myself. Many times, lessons were learned the hard way. All of this can and was very discouraging. But rather than focusing on the hardships, I realized that some positive results came from them. I know I would have never been able to get through such a crazy time without my Chief Deputy, Deb Tradle, and my Deputy, Kay Basler. No matter the task asked of them, they performed it willingly and urgently. I am always able to count on them and their willingness to be challenged. I'm very grateful to have them by my side. I would like to share a quote I came across that really hit home. Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. I would like to end by thanking all of you for your continued support, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions? Supervisor Schultz.
Not really a question, but but a statement. And I want to thank you for what you do. This has been a very tough time with people unhappy with the result, accusing the election people of all kinds of fraud, and that has to wear on you. I want to thank you. I believe very strongly that you are about as honest and upfront and is your whole department. And all this nonsense has got to stop. But thank you for what you do. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you.
You can have your comfortable seat back. Emergency management, I don't see Donna here. So we'll move on to Fair Park. Amy?
Hello, I'm Amy Listel, the director at the Jefferson County Fair Park. I have passed out the annual report tonight. Our mission at the Jefferson County Fair Park is to provide a county-owned facility for all citizens where young and old can gather to display their talents, accomplishments, and celebrate their cultures, thereby promoting education, entertainment, and economic growth in Jefferson County. I believe our annual report and our operations encompasses all of that. As you can see, this is just a snapshot of some of the events that are held at the Fair Park. We host unique events that aren't likely found at your average convention center or banquet hall. We have anything from animal shows to flea markets, our Jefferson County Fair, other festivals, and car shows. Our facility is also used by Jefferson County departments, such as administration, the Sheriff's Department, UW Extension, and 4-H. Many local charities raise money by hosting events at the Fair Park, including FFA, 4-H, Kiwanis Club, Lions Club, Optimist Club, the list goes on. We are proud to be a community partner. With that, we have several businesses and organizations that sponsor the Fair Park and have created great long-lasting partnerships with us. Some of those that I'd like to highlight tonight are Daybreak Foods, Fort Healthcare, Premier Bank, Pepsi, Jones Dairy Farm, Miller Lite and Frank Beer Distributing, and Galax Grading. We're also thankful for those partners that are only with us during Fair Week and the Jefferson County Dairy Breakfast, and I've listed those in this report. I also have a chart that describes some of our programs and services and just a record going back to 2019 and what we're estimating for 2022. We do track our year-round event days, and it does look less in 2020, but it's not as less as it could have been. Even though it was a hard year in 2020 for events, we are proud to say that we worked with all of our event organizers and we came up with safe plans for them to modify their events and still be able to host their events at the Fair Park, whether that was in person or virtually or a combination of. And then we still were able to run our campground during 2020 and our winter storage. And those are very big operations for us at the Fair Park as well. We continue to be one of the largest tourism generators in Jefferson County. And in 2020, we did a little remodel to the activity center lobby and we painted the wall to look like our Fair Park logo with a welcome to Jefferson County tagline, and we turned it into the Jefferson County Visitor Center. We are lucky to partner with the Jefferson County Area Tourism Council, and they have been staffing that Visitor Center booth during some of our events and helping to promote tourism in Jefferson County. They also have been hosting their monthly membership meetings at the Fair Park as well. The county fair is also one of our tourism generators. It's known as one of the premier county fairs in Wisconsin, and it averages approximately 40,000 people each year in 5 days. In 2020, we pick a theme every year for the fair, and it was Year of the Goat. Unfortunately, we ended up having a virtual fair, but we made the best of it. And so I would turn that into, fortunately, we had a virtual fair because we still gave our youth exhibitors an opportunity to show their animals by doing virtual barns and judging. And we worked with local restaurants to have them feature fair food menu items during what would have been the Fair Week. So instead of being just plain old Year of the Goat, it ended up being one of the greatest memories of all time. So the little GOAT acronym there. In 2021, we were excited to welcome back everyone to the Jefferson County Fair for Year of the Farmer. We held that this year, July 7th through the 11th, and it was a record year. We did not have record overall attendance, where our record for that is about 47,000 people, and this year we were just over 44,000. But we did have record food sales, record carnival sales, and we did have a new record daily attendance for Saturday of 17,006 people. Previously, our record on Saturday was in 2013 at 16,553 people. So just a little bit, 500 or so more. We hope to see you all in 2022. We are a little bit later next year. It'll be July 13th through the 17th, and we have not picked a theme yet, but we do anticipating doing that. On the last page are department goals for the rest of this year and into 2022. We're working to create a strategic plan and master plan and a feasibility study because we need to see where the future of the Fair Park is headed and continue to grow that. So we're excited to work on that plan this fall and continue to develop additional revenue streams by expanding events. I included a picture of the wedding that we just had. We just hosted our first wedding in 20 years at the Fair Park. That was something that previous management had stopped doing, and we experimented and brought it back. We hosted the wedding in the new Jones Dairy Farm swine barn and not the activity center. So I thought I'd share that photo because they did a really great job of decorating the barn and they had a great time. It went well. So that is something we will look to continue to do in the future. We had approximately 30 new events so far in 2021. And 4 of those were camping rallies. So like I said before, our camping operation is pretty large and we enjoy having those campers with us. So with that, I would just like to thank you all for your support of the Fair Park, and I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for Amy? Any questions for Amy? Comments? Thank you for a wonderful fair this year. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 12, Buildings and Grounds Committee. Resolution entering into a contract with Moss Brothers Construction to provide construction management services for Jefferson County building projects. Supervisor Payne.
Thank you. Resolution number 2021
26.
Jefferson County has been working since the beginning of 2020 on the best course of action to renovate the county's main facility complex that includes the courthouse, sheriff's office, and jail. As part of this process, Jefferson County engaged with Potter Lawson to assist with design planning. To help with budget estimation and the general construction process, Jefferson County also contracted with Moss Brothers Construction. On June 8, 2021, the County Board approved the courthouse facility renovation project and directed the county administrator to start the next phase of design services, procure construction management services, procure owner's representation services, and develop a more refined financial model for this project. At its meeting on July 7, 2021, the Building and Grounds Committee considered whether or not to engage the services of a general contractor or a construction manager, and determined that using a construction manager was the better option. The committee then recommended that Moss Brothers Construction serve as the construction manager. The committee first considered the traditional methodology of design, bid, and build using a general contractor or construction manager. Based on the county's experience using a construction manager for the recent highway shop project, along with the complexity of this renovation project, it was determined that the better option was to retain the service of a construction manager. The scope of these services will include developing requests for proposals, reviewing bids, administering contracts, and coordinating project execution to include on-site supervision and quality control projects. All public works related to this project will follow the sealed bid process, which the county board will approve in accordance with state law and the county's purchasing policy. The committee then considered who would be the construction manager and determined it was in the best interest of the county to contract directly with Moss Brothers Construction, based on the quality of previous services provided to Jefferson County, which were provided at a competitive cost. On July 7, 2021, the Buildings and Grounds Committee voted unanimously to direct the county administrator to prepare a resolution for Moss Brothers Construction to provide these services for consideration at its meeting in August.
The cost for these services has been included in the total project estimate presented to the county board. The Building and Grounds Committee reviewed the proposal at its August 4th, 2021 meeting and recommended entering into a contract with Moss Brothers Construction to provide construction management services to Jefferson County for the county building projects described above. The committee subsequently affirmed this recommendation at its meeting on September 1st, 2021. The Finance Committee considered this resolution on September 2nd, 2021, and recommended forwarding to the county board to approve entering into a contract with Moss Brothers Construction to provide construction management services to Jefferson County. Okay, whereas the proposal from Moss Brothers Construction provided the following rates, and you can see that on your sheet. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the county administrator is authorized to negotiate and enter into a contract with Moss Brothers Construction to provide construction management services for the county building projects described herein. Fiscal note, funding for these services will be through existing and future bond proceeds approved by the county board. I move for approval of this resolution.
Have a second.
Second.
Supervisor Backlund with a second. Questions, discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Oh, sorry. Supervisor Kelly. I got.
Thank you.
I can't see it, so I'm sorry.
The construction phase is listed as 3% of the total project cost. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's what it says on mine.
What is that?
Do you want to comment on that, Supervisor Payne? Or Supervisor, or Mr. Waymeyer? Either one.
It's going to be based on roughly, I want to say 25 million is going to be the hard construction cost number, so 3% of that number.
Thank you.
Supervisor David.
I just wanted to say we did something very similar back about a decade ago when we built the highway department, because we lacked the expertise to understand completely what was happening and to track all the different complex things that were happening when we built that $18 million project. So we hired a very similar type of consultant to help us guide our decisions and to make sure that we were spending taxpayer money properly. And it was a good thing, we thought then, just as I do now. So I support this.
Any other questions or comments? Supervisor Payne?
This is something that the committee discussed in depth, and these rates that are listed here are typical rates in this industry. And also, in addition to what Supervisor David has said, we also discussed that this project is even more complex than the highway project because it'll be done in phases while people are still in this building, and Moss Brothers will be here to help us with that phasing, where to move people, when each section will be started, and how we can continue working without much disruption. So that is another reason we decided that we would go with the Moss Brothers for the construction management. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Any more? I'd like a roll call vote.
Supervisor Herbst,
He's got his mic muted.
your mic is muted, Dan. Supervisor Winnicky,
Aye.
We're not muting it. They're muting it.
you're unmuted now.
I'm muted.
Nope, we can hear you.
Hey, I vote yes.
Thank you.
Oh, you're getting the message. The host is muting you.
Supervisor Brockler, Supervisor Coots,
Aye.
Passes 29-0 with one absent. Thank you. Takes us to item 13. County Administrator, Mr. Waymire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution number 2127, granting an easement to Bertram Construction LLC for purposes of constructing and accessing a communications tower and equipment at the Sheriff's Office Annex. Jefferson County has continued to work on efforts related to the expansion of broadband. As the county prepared to submit a broadband grant application in 2019, the county focused on areas unserved and underserved by broadband and considered opportunities to align this project with the county's emergency communication project. The intent and authority to develop partnerships was approved by the county board through resolution number 2019-48. Although the county was not initially successful in receiving the first round of grants from the Public Service Commission, the county was offered the opportunity due to scoring on the initial application to apply for a second round of grant funds made available in the fall of 2020 for a portion of the original project. The county was subsequently awarded $1.118 million in CARES dollars. The locations where grant funding was allocated to included sites in Cambridge, Concord, Palmyra, and the Sheriff Annex site. The county has been working with the Bertram LLC to finalize various agreements related to the joint use of towers at these locations. This includes Jefferson County allowing Bertram to construct and access a communication tower and equipment at the Sheriff's Office Annex. This tower was constructed by Bertram, a property owned by Jefferson County, and is a 195-foot self-supporting Class 3 tower with a footprint of approximately 50 feet by 50 feet. In addition to this foundation, this area will and has housed communications facilities to protect Bertram's equipment. This resolution will grant Bertram a conditional easement. In exchange, the county will have the right to install its communication equipment on this tower at no cost. This resolution is being brought forward by the county administrator based on the direction and authorization placed on him in resolution number 2019-48. Fiscal note, there is no fiscal impact in the county for this easement. The county will be receiving access to this tower site for its communication project at no cost. Mr. Chair, I request this to move forward for approval.
I move adoption.
Second.
Did you get the first, second? I didn't catch those. Did you catch them, Audrey? Okay, thank you. Well, I have questions, discussion. Seeing none, we'll have a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Takes us to item number 14. Supervisor Renard, Executive Committee, resolution adopting the Jefferson County Board Supervisor Tentative Redistricting Plan.
Resolution number 2128. Following the release of census data every 10 years, each level of government has the requirement to utilize data to review its population changes and adjust boundaries of representative districts. In Wisconsin, there are specific statutory requirements on how this process is implemented, with counties having a significant role in the process. This includes the following: development of a tentative plan followed by a public hearing and approval by the county board. Notice to municipalities, cities, villages, and towns of the tentative plan for adjusting municipal boundaries where applicable, and issuance of a final plan followed by a public hearing and approval by the county board. The Executive Committee has been designated by the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors as the County Redistricting Committee for purposes of providing policy guidance and oversight for the county's redistricting process for 2021. Staff involved in this process include the county clerk, county administrator, corporation counsel, planning and zoning director, and land information office. This resolution formally adopts the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors tentative supervisory district plan, which will be reviewed by municipalities in Jefferson County to provide comments for approving the final plan. The Executive Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on September 7, 2021, and recommended forwarding to the County Board to formally adopt the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors tentative supervisory district plan. And I'm going to skip down into the whereas clauses to the second page, which talks about what's in this tentative plan. Now therefore be it resolved, the following is the tentative supervisory redistricting plan for the County Board Supervisor election in 2022. 1. The county board shall consist of 30 supervisory districts, each represented by a single county supervisor. 2, district boundary lines shall be set forth on the proposed map dated September 2nd, 2021, which is included as part thereof by reference. 3, tentative districts are substantially equal in population with an ideal district population of 2,830. 4, whenever possible, whole contiguous municipalities or contiguous parts of the same municipality have been placed in the same district. 5, whenever possible, natural boundaries such as roads and rivers were used as dividers of a proposed district, and contiguous subdivisions and neighborhoods were included within the same district. The following documents are incorporated therein by reference, and you have them in your packet. 2010 to 2020 population change map, population change from 2010-2022 table, current and tentative supervisory comparison map, and tentative supervisory district populations. Be it further resolved that following adoption of this tentative supervisory district plan by the County Board of Supervisors, the plan will be sent to local clerks for municipality review and adjustment of wards to align with supervisory districts, and the county will offer technical workshops for municipal clerks and leaders to attend to assist with the realignment of ward boundaries. Fiscal note, this resolution has no fiscal impact. I move for approval of this resolution.
Second by Supervisor Schultz. Okay. Questions, discussion. Supervisor David.
Thank you. 10 years ago, I was on that committee, and when we did this, we also tried to not put two existing supervisors into the same district, and that has happened in this case between my colleague, Mr. Kelly, and myself, and I was wondering why that particular criteria was ignored this time.
Supervisor Renard.
Matt Zangel is not here tonight, and I'll ask Ben to maybe, oh, there he is. I can't see you way over there. The avoidance of having two incumbent supervisors in the same district was something that the map makers did look at. This one we didn't realize had happened until Supervisor Kelly came to our meeting the other day and told us about it. So I'm going to let Matt kind of tell you about how this map came about, if he will do that. And the other thing is that this is a tentative map. It's not set in stone. And the towns, the villages, and the cities still have a crack at adapting it a little bit or amending it in cooperation with the zoning office.
Matt, you want to address any issues?
Sure. Yeah, like Amy had said, during the first executive committee meeting, we introduced the maps, pretty much currently what you're looking at. There hasn't been much substantial changes since we originally created them. When we first looked at the maps, the standard deviation was quite a bit, so we did have to do some reconfiguring to get to where we are today. We kept in mind where supervisors lived. We didn't necessarily adjust those boundaries based on where supervisors live. So in this case, we assumed we kept everyone in their same districts, and like Amy had mentioned, it wasn't until the last meeting that Supervisor Kelly brought that to our attention and showed us and explained to us that that line had been moved to incorporate his residence into Supervisor District Number 3. Other than that, we adjusted the boundaries as best we could to keep them in line with those standards or those requirements that Amy read off. We also tried to keep the standard deviations of surrounding communities with the same as each other. So for example, all of the standard deviations for the city of Lake Mills and the Supervisory District 15 around Lake Mills are all roughly about 3% deviations. So we tried to keep those surrounding communities together, tried to keep them with the same general population as you see. This map currently has a standard deviation ranging from about -4% to +4%, which is generally a good deviation. So, like we said, this is the tentative district map. This is where we're at today for more input and more public comment.
Thank you, Matt. Supervisor Schultz, or Supervisor Schultz, then I'll come back.
Kind of a point of clarification and a question for the board chair. 10 years ago, were you redistricted into another supervisor's district?
Yes, I was.
And you ran against each
Yes.
other? Yeah.
That's correct.
Just want to clarify the record.
Supervisor Renard.
And I just want to say this, I said this at the executive committee and committee members agreed with me, that our top priority in drawing these boundaries is not where we all live. And the public should be aware of that. This is really not the way we approach this. It's about, or it's not about us, it's about the future of these districts. It's about the acceptable deviation and getting just the right map that minimizes the deviation from, the magic number is 2,830. That should be about the number of people in each of the 30 supervisory districts. So it's not that this was our main goal in drawing these district boundaries, is to avoid having two incumbents in the same district. That's not our job.
Hey, Supervisor Smith.
In the map we were all sent, the subdivision I'm in is in yellow and the new district is in blue. I'm in Greyhawk, the farthest subdivision to the east. As I reached out to the village, they reached out to the land information office and they sent a more detailed map. On their map, it does show that my subdivision is in Johnson Creek, but she commented if you divided it up, going up Union Street to West Street, it would make her job easier, where right now we're kind of jogging through two different neighborhoods. So I don't know, at some point that'll come into the conversation.
The villages, all villages, municipalities, all have, it goes to them now to make those suggestions. Any other questions? Supervisor David.
Just to comment again on our situation, that I would like to suggest that since the assumption was wrong, that the outcome is also wrong, and I would like to see it changed. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Take a roll call vote, please.
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor David, you have another comment.
And then, so if we ratify this, then is it still able to be amended?
Oh, yes, we have to get information back from all the municipalities, all the townships, those types of districts. Mr. Weimar, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, so just a reminder of the timeline that we kind of talked about last month. So that tonight, after it's approved, the county clerk's code will be input in the state system to officially say that the tentative plan has been recommended to move forward. That then turns on the layers to all the municipalities so they can do their duties related to their alignments, et cetera, make recommendations back to us where they see changes need to take place. Typically, that law is 60 days that they have to do that in. I think as we've discussed before, we're on a very compressed timeline because this is typically a 6-month process that we've been asked to do like basically in 75 days. Most the feedback we've gotten from all the communities so far is they'll get it to us by the end of October. The intention is during that time there's this dialogue, such as Supervisor Smith talking about with Johnson Creek. Matt and I just talked to the city today, already with some recommendations of where they might see some changes when they come through their process. Following that being done is on November 2nd, I believe that's that Wednesday in November, we'll have a second public hearing. And before that, the executive committee will probably consider the updated map. And that'll be another opportunity in front of the entire county board to hear more public comment of the revised, if needed, updated final plan. And then on November 9th is when it would be before you all for final consideration and any final amendments that you would need to see take place related to that. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Waymire. Any other questions, comments? Supervisor David.
Hearing what Ben explained, I will be voting in favor of this, expecting some changes to be made. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
Supervisor Brockler,
Aye.
Supervisor Winnicky, Supervisor Coots,
Aye.
Supervisor Herbst,
Aye.
So it passes unanimously with one absent. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 15, Finance Committee, resolution issuing general obligation promissory notes, Series 2021A, an amount not to exceed $8 million for county building projects. Supervisor Jones.
Resolution number 2021-29. On August 10, 2021, the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors adopted resolution number 2021-21, issuing general obligation promissory notes, Series 2021A, in the amount not to exceed $5,830,000 for county building projects. This resolution was preceded by initial resolution authorizing debt issuance of up to $36 million. On September 2nd, 2021, the Finance Committee considered resolution number 2021-21 and recommended increasing the issuance of general obligation promissory notes, Series 2021A, to the amount not to exceed $8 million. This resolution repeals and replaces resolution number 2021-21 and authorizes the issuance of general obligation promissory notes, Series 2021A, in the amount not to exceed $8 million for county building projects. Fiscal note. The debt authorized by this resolution will be issued by the county through the sale of general obligation promissory notes in the amount not to exceed $8 million. Because an initial resolution authorizing debt issuance was previously adopted by the county board, this resolution requires county board approval by a majority of county board members present. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
I have a second.
Second.
Questions? Discussion? Supervisor Smith.
Shortly after our last meeting, in an email to Ben, I expressed concern about the 5.8 million. And 8 million is a step in the right direction, but to me, we should do 10 million, simply because that's the most we can do. In 3 years from now, we're not going to have to sit back and look at what we should have done or could have done, or what we would have done. We did as much as we could have. Now, as you look at the difference of 6 million or 10 million in interest costs going from 1.85% to 2.6%, there's an additional $400,000 in interest expense that we would be paying 3 or 4 years from now on this money. Now, I understand the cost of money and not spending it. I'm just at a loss as to how it's relevant. When we have to pay this money back, it's going to be in 23 payments and 46 interest payments. And whether we spend the money this year, next year, or the following year, that won't change. And the only thing we're going to accomplish by putting it off is having the loan cost us more. As we look at the best case scenario on this, right now, we don't know what this building's going to cost. Everything's in a projection. We won't know that till next spring, and we won't know until we issue the bonds what they're going to cost. So a best case scenario is it comes back at 36 million. In a conversation I had with Ben, there's some CARES Act money. I think he said $7 million that possibly we could spend on air conditioning and things like that. And if that were to happen, that would be great. But if we only go 8 million in this issue of bonds, then as we go forward, and it does turn out to be 36 million, and we do 2 at 10 million, we're at 28 million, and say it turns out to be 29 million, we're going to have to issue bonds again just for $1 million. In a worst case scenario, where this money, all of a sudden, if we had done it separately, putting in the air conditioning or whatever, and it would have covered it, and then all of a sudden, because we were remodeling, it didn't cover it, and the estimates come in above 38 million, all of a sudden on that last draw, it's going to be over 10 million. And we're going to be in a position where I think they said you had to carry or pay an extra 0.4%, which is going to be at least an additional $500,000 in interest on the cost of the loan. So I'm just of the opinion we should do what we can and borrow the most that we can in this issue.
Any other comments? Comments, questions? Supervisor Jones.
The issue that Supervisor Smith brings up, in Finance Committee, we discussed it at least at two separate meetings. We had elders representative there at both of them. And what it came down to is trying to predict the interest rates in the future. And we all admitted that we didn't have a crystal ball to do this. If we borrow the 10 million and interest rates stay low, we're borrowing money that we will not spend, and we'll still be making payments on it. If the interest rates do increase higher than what Ehlers is already projecting, and they're doing what their projections are very conservative, then Mr. Smith would probably be correct. So that's why we came up with a compromise of sort of the 8 million. Also, this is September, we can also borrow another 10 million anytime after January 1st. So if we have a feeling that interest rates are going to change, we have that luxury of going after another 10 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Jones. Any other questions? Supervisor Lund?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I just have one potential correction. In the fiscal note, it refers to the sale of general obligation promissory notes. And as I understood it from reading the resolution, we had changed that to bonds.
I think the recommendation from our bond counsel currently is to go with promissory notes.
So notes it will be. Any other questions? Supervisor David.
While I enjoy participating in this process and want to cooperate, I do not think this is in the best interest of a taxpayer, and I do not think we are designing this whole program for the correct things, and therefore I will be voting against this.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Questions, comments? Roll call vote.
Supervisor Brockler?
Aye.
Supervisor Winnicke? Supervisor Coots?
Aye.
Supervisor Herbst?
Aye.
Supervisor Lund?
He's already voted.
Aye.
Sorry, we gotcha. We have 27 yes, 2 no, 1 absent.
The resolution passes. Takes us to Resolution B, amending the 2021 Human Services Department budget to include American Rescue Plan Act funds. Supervisor Jones.
Resolution number 2021-30. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 was signed into law first quarter of 2021 as an additional round of stimulus to assist the economic recovery from COVID-19 and its related impacts. This act provides local governments with funds to assist in their recovery efforts, both as an organization and within their communities. Jefferson County will receive a direct allocation from the federal government of approximately $16.4 million. 4 broad categories for use of these funds were established in the Act, which include recovery, assistance for essential personnel, revenue preservation, and infrastructure. Staff have determined that these funds are approximately allocated to purchase technology for remote work by the Jefferson County Human Service Department staff. Using these funds for this purpose requires a budget amendment. This resolution amends the 2021 Jefferson County Human Service Department budget to incorporate $158,000 of the American Rescue Plan Act funds to purchase technology for remote work. The Finance Committee considered this resolution. It should read September 2nd, 2021, and recommended forwarded to the County Board for approval. Fiscal note, this is a budget amendment. County board approval requires a 2/3 vote of the entire membership of the county board, 20 votes of the 30-member county board. Mr. Chair, with that one correction on the date, I move for passage of this resolution.
Second by Supervisor Morris. Discussion, questions? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Supervisor Brockler, Supervisor Winnicky, Supervisor Coots,
Aye.
Supervisor Herbst,
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Takes us to resolution considering a claim for personal injury of Mary Mess. Supervisor Jones.
Resolution number 2021-31. A personal injury claim has been made against Jefferson County by Mary Mess. The claim has been reviewed by the county insurance carrier WMIC and was recommended for disallowance based on the findings that the county has no liability for this claim and is not legally responsible for the alleged damages. This resolution formally denies the claim filed against Jefferson County and directs the Corporation Council to give the claimant notice of disallowance. The Finance Committee considered this resolution on September 2nd, 2021, and recommending forward to the county board to deny the personal injury claim of Mary Mess. Fiscal note, the matter has been referred to the Wisconsin Municipal Mutual Insurance Company, or WMIC, and will be resolved in accordance with terms of the county policy. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Jekyll. Questions? Comments? This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Passed by voice. Resolution considering revised Jefferson County Library funding formula for non-countywide library services. Supervisor Jones.
I would like to designate Supervisor Fitzgerald from the Library Board to read this resolution.
Thank you. Supervisor Fitzgerald.
All right, Resolution 2021-32, considering the revised Jefferson County Library funding formula for non-countywide library services. Beginning in 2008, the annual county library budget funding was determined by a formula that multiplied the number of each library's rural circulations by the average countywide cost per circulation during that year. The countywide cost per circulation average was then used to reimburse each county library based on its rural circulations. Each library was guaranteed by state law a reimbursement rate of at least 70% of its costs. The goal was that Jefferson County would tax at a rate of 100% of the aggregate costs per circulation so that the fair share partnership between the county and the municipalities was maintained. In 2021, the Jefferson County Library Service Board began reviewing its funding formula as a part of revising its 5-year plan for library services. The board considered maintaining an equitable means to compensate libraries that continue to circulate materials to citizens who lived in a municipality, town, or village without a library. On September 8, 2021, following a public hearing, the Jefferson County Library Board adopted its plan for Jefferson County Library Services 2022 to 2024, which included a revised funding formula, more particularly described in the attached Exhibit A. This revised funding formula includes a new provision which incorporates costs associated with providing electronic library services to the public, and the results of this revision will be included in the 2022 proposed Jefferson County annual budget. The Jefferson County Finance Committee reviewed and discussed this revised funding formula on May 6th and August 5th of 2021 and voted 5-0 to recommend integrating the updated funding formula into the 2022 budget process. This resolution recognizes that the revised funding formula will be considered as a basis to determine the non-county-wide tax levy for library services in the 2022 Jefferson County annual budget, with formal action by the county board when the budget is presented for adoption. Fiscal note, the fiscal impact of this resolution will be determined by the total physical and electronic circulations that occur in the year preceding the adoption of the budget and will vary depending on this activity. Mr. Chair, I move for approval of this resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Morris. Questions? Discussion? We'll take a voice vote. All in favor of this resolution, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Was that one opposed? No. Okay, just later. Okay, thank you. Passed by voice. Takes us to item number 16. Resolution creating one full-time exempt advanced prescriber position at Human Services. Supervisor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution number 2021-33. Wisconsin ranks 4th nationally in prevalence of mental illness. Nearly 1.45 million people in the state live with a mental or behavioral health issue ranging from anxiety and depression to schizophrenia, addiction, and substance abuse. 49% of Wisconsin residents with a mental illness do not receive care, which is also occurring in Jefferson County. Lack of access to mental health services strains not only the individual, but also his or her family, co-workers, caretakers, and the community. It is estimated that costs associated with mental illness have a $9 billion impact on Wisconsin's economy due to lost productivity, public assistance, and crime. Jefferson County can have a greater positive impact on the mental health crisis, but additional staff is needed to assess and prescribe psychiatric medications and reduce the waiting time to see a client who is in distress. Currently, clients are waiting at least 3 months for an appointment with Jefferson County one psychiatrist, and as mentioned above, the costs associated with lack of proper care are enormous. The Jefferson County Human Service Director is recommending the creation of one full-time psychiatric advanced prescriber position to assist with this overwhelming dilemma. A psychiatric advanced prescriber does not replace the psychiatrist in the provisions of services, but rather supplements existing psychiatry time available. This position will provide assessment, diagnostic, and treatment of mental illness and substance abuse disorders, including prescribing medications. On August 17, 2021, the Humans was provided information that dated. What? Oh, the Human Resource. Okay, I'm sorry. On August 17, 2021, the Human Resource Committee was provided information regarding the need for a psychiatric advanced prescriber position and supported the county administrator to move forward with the creation of this position, but did not take formal action. The Human Service Board considered this resolution at its meeting on September 14, 2021, and recommended awarding to the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to approve the creation of one full-time exempt psychiatric advanced prescriber position at the Human Service Department, funded with revenue from commercial insurance, Medicaid, and Medicare building and tax levy. Before I read the fiscal note, if I could just comment, I welcome any supervisor to come to a Human Service Committee meeting and hear the statistics each month and how these numbers are just increasing constantly for people who need help. And our Human Service Department is doing an excellent job, but they need all the help. Also, they need the help that they could get. Fiscal note, salary and fringe benefits for one full-time exempt psychiatric advanced prescriber position for the remainder of 2021 is $21,230,000 and $2,453.50 in overhead expenses for a total of $23,683.50. The full-time exempt psychiatric advanced practitioner position is funded 47% with commercial insurance, Medicare, and Medicaid billing, and 50% with tax levy. The overhead expenses would be offset with a decrease in overhead expenses and other programs. Please see the attached budget adjustment or amendment request form for the proposed adjustments to the 2021 budget. This is a budget amendment. County board approval requires a 2/3 vote of the entire membership of the county board, 20 votes of the 30-member county board. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
I have a second.
Second.
And Supervisor Morris, second. Questions? Discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Supervisor Brockler? Supervisor Winnicke? Supervisor Coots?
Aye.
Supervisor Herbst?
Aye.
Resolution passes 28-1. Takes us to item 17, Parks Committee, resolution authorizing county conservation aids grant application. Supervisor Johns.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution number 2021-34, authorizing county conservation aids grant application. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Fish and Wildlife Management Grant Program was created to assist counties in the improvement of fish and wildlife resources. The program was established by the Wisconsin Legislature in 1965 and provides matching funds for a growing list of county-sponsored fish and wildlife habitat projects. The Jefferson County Parks Department has applied for financial assistance through this program to remove invasive plants from the property, including but not limited to buckthorn, honeysuckle, garlic mustard, and thistles at Dorothy Karnes County Park in the town of Jefferson, Wisconsin. Project goals include a combination of prescribed burning, mechanical mowing, hand cutting, and herbicide application across the site on approximately 20 acres. The overarching goal of the project is to maintain diverse grasslands and prairie ecosystem and prevent the encroachment of trees and other woody invaders. The total cost of the project is estimated at $5,000. The grant application requests up to 50% of the total project cost to be used toward the project, equaling $2,500, which will be matched by both volunteer hours and parks staff labor. Any additional costs above and beyond these provided by the grant will be funded through donations held by the Jefferson County for the benefit of Dorothy Karnes County Park. The Parks Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on August 30th, 2021, and recommended forwarding to the County Board to ratify submission of the grant application and accept grant funds of up to $2,500 with a $2,500 matching allocation through donations, county staff labor, and volunteer labor. Fiscal note. The total cost of this project is estimated at $5,000, which will be funded through the CCA grant in the amount of up to $2,500, with the balance funded through donations held by Jefferson County for the benefit of Dorothy Karnes County Park and staff volunteer labor. The County Board of Supervisors authorizes the Finance Director to make the necessary budget adjustments to enact this resolution. This is a budget amendment. County Board approval requires 2/3 vote of the entire membership of the County Board. And I move, Mr. Chair, I move for adoption of this resolution.
Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Christensen. Questions, discussion? Supervisor Lund.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to know what kind of herbicide will be applied during this process of weed removal.
Our Parks Director is here. He can comment on that.
We use various types of herbicide for cut stump application, like triclopyr, Garlon 4, Element 4, sometimes Element 3 if we're working in an aquatic environment, but this is all in prairie environments. It's directly applied to cut stumps of those types of woody invasives that were described in the amendment.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? This calls for roll call vote.
Supervisor Brockler? Supervisor Winnicky? Supervisor Coots?
Aye.
Supervisor Herbst?
Aye.
Resolution passes 28-1. Takes us to item 18, Law Enforcement Emergency Management Committee, resolution accepting bids for demolition of properties acquired through the Flood Mitigation and Acquisition Program. Supervisor Morris.
I have Resolution 2021-35, accepting bids for demolition of properties acquired through the Flood Mitigation and Acquisition Program. Executive summary. Jefferson County has continued to be active in the Flood Mitigation and Acquisition Program to reduce risk for those properties that are impacted due to frequent flooding. Since 2008, the county has received numerous grants to accelerate this program in defined areas. Jefferson County has recently been awarded $3 million in grants through state and federal programs, with a $300,000 match by the county that has been included in the budget. Part of the county's responsibility is to coordinate the demolition of the structures on the properties acquired to restore them back to a more natural state. On July 14, 2021, the Jefferson County Emergency Management Director issued a request for proposals to solicit bids for the demolition of all structures on acquired properties, tapping of wells, and the abandonment of septic systems on 23 properties, with each property receiving an individual bid. A total of 11 proposals were received by the August 4, 2021 deadline. The lowest qualified bidder was Robinson Brothers with a total cost of $305,500. The Emergency Management Director checked the references to ensure that this bidder would be able to perform the work as required and receive positive responses. On August 27, 2021, the Law Enforcement and Emergency Management Committee considered the proposal and recommended 5-0 to move forward with Robinson Brothers to conduct the demolition work as specified in the RFP at the price of $305,500 for all 23 properties. So fiscal note, the flood mitigation and acquisition program is included in the emergency management budget to include the work related to this resolution. No budget adjustment is necessary. I move for passage of this resolution.
And we have a second by Supervisor Schultz. Questions, discussion? Since this does involve expenditure of funds, we'll have a roll call vote.
Supervisor Brockler,
Aye.
Supervisor Winnicke, Supervisor Coots,
Aye.
Supervisor Herbst.
Aye.
Passes 29-0. Item 19, Planning and Zoning Committee. Report approval and denial of petitions. Supervisor Jekyll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Report to the honorable members of the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors. Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee, having considered petitions to amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County, filed for public hearing held on December 17, 2020 and August 19, 2021, as required by law pursuant to Wisconsin statutes, notice thereof having been given and being duly advised in the wishes of the town boards and persons in the areas affected, hereby makes the following recommendations. Approval of petitions as listed and denial of petition R4288A-20. Petition R4288A-20 was filed by Diane Owens and Paul Elliott to create a 2.002 acre A2 agricultural rural business zone at N7040 Saucer Drive in the town of Farmington, to allow for an agricultural tourism, and public hearings were held on December 17th of 2020 and August 19th of 2021. The petition is recommended for denial because the committee felt the proposal of a wedding event facility did not fit into the zoning ordinance as an agricultural tourism because it is not an agriculturally related use. The committee noted that the wedding and event facility may be permitted with an utilization of a pre-1970 agricultural barn. However, this proposal does not utilize such a structure. The proposed use is not compatible with the surrounding residential uses, would be located on a small property and is too close to neighbors. Furthermore, the opposition to the rezoning was heard from nearby property owners, while those in favor were people who did not reside in the immediate neighborhood. Dated this 30th day of August 2021, Blaine Paulson, Secretary. Moves on to Ordinance 2021-8. Amending Jefferson County zoning map. Whereas Jefferson County Board of Supervisors has heretofore been petitioned to amend the zoning map of Jefferson County, and whereas petitions as listed were referred to Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee for public hearing on August 19, 2021, and whereas the proposed amendments have been given due consideration by the Board of Supervisors in open session, now therefore be ordained that Jefferson County Board of Supervisors does here amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County as follows. I move for adoption of this ordinance.
Do I have a second? Second for Supervisor Paulson. Questions, discussion?
I just got a question.
Yes, Supervisor Beck.
So if the barn was in use, then that wouldn't be an issue. If the barn
That's on the next resolution.
That's for a resolution coming up if you want.
Any questions, discussion? All in favor of approval of this ordinance, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance passes by voice. Takes us to the resolution of denial of petition to amend official zoning map. Supervisor Jacob.
Resolution 2021-36. Whereas Jefferson County Board of Supervisors has heretofore been petitioned to amend the official zoning map to create an agricultural and rural business zone for an agricultural tourism on Saucer Road in the town of Farmington. And whereas petition R4288A-20 was referred to Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee for public hearing, and whereas the proposed amendment has been given due consideration by Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee after public hearing held on December 17, 2020 and August 19, 2021, as required by law, and the committee, after being duly advised by the wishes of the town board and persons in the affected area, made recommendations to deny the petition. Now therefore be resolved, Jefferson County Board of Supervisors, that petition R4288A-20 submitted by Diane Owens and Paul Elliott to rezone 2.2 acres from A3 to A2 of PIN number 008-0715-0232-001 for an agricultural and rural business zone on Saucer Road in the town of Farmington is hereby denied for the reasons stated more particularly in the Planning and Zoning Committee report to the County Board dated August 30th, 2021, and the minutes of the official record of the public hearings of December 17th, 2020, and August 19th, 2021. Fiscal note, this resolution has no fiscal impact. I move for adoption of this resolution.
Do I have a second? Second from Supervisor Paulson. Questions, discussion? Supervisor Backlund.
So now that gets my question then. So if they had used the barn, then it would have been approved, but because it's the castle, it's not? Is that how I'm understanding?
There was no barn on this actual property. This was split off long before from the where you're seeing the barn on it. And the castle was built in 2002, I think, is when we come up with, if Matt, I think, can help me. I think that's what we came up with for the date of the original building of the house.
Okay, because my other question was, so they didn't try for a conditional use before they started the project?
Not that we know of it. As far as I know from the records we came with from planning and zoning, they purchased the property and then applied for it.
They would have to have the rezone to have the conditional use, Supervisor Backlund.
No, I understand. I just didn't know if they started the process before. So this is they trying to do an after the fact is, I guess, what I'm questioning. They're asking for forgiveness instead of permission, I guess is a polite way of putting it.
Matt, you want to address that?
Yes and no, but not necessarily. They started the process before. They own the property, then started the process, but they aren't in operation yet. So they're not asking forgiveness yet because they are not in operation.
Okay.
Supervisor Schultz.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about this, and I understand history and tradition and everything else, but saying that this is not a barn, it's just a beautiful building, so we should deny it? Should they have built this to look like a barn so that they
That
could
was my
be-
question.
Yeah, and I understand what zoning committee is saying, but I think at some point, we as a board need to apply a little common sense. And this is they've done a beautiful job. They, 50 people, and location, and what a unique opportunity. I drive by Busy Barns, which is a barn, but I see the need or the desire to get out in the country and that's where this is. This is beautiful. And what a great opportunity. You're getting married. I'm concerned that maybe we're being a little bit too tight on the zoning and should allow these people to operate a business here. It's a beautiful, beautiful building.
Any other questions or comments? Supervisor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we know why it was turned down at the town level?
I don't believe it was. It was approved there.
I'm the town chair over in District 11. As far as I know, it wasn't turned down. In fact, the last couple meetings back, they approved the condition of the new driveway to be run parallel to the existing driveway going into the land. So I think that's kind of a sign of it was not voted on as far as I was concerned at that meeting. It was just voted on that they would only approve it. At that time, they were just approving the new driveway, and that they were going to let it go at that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Supervisor Johns, do you want to finish?
So about a month and a half ago, I had the opportunity to go over and take a tour with Diane through this castle. And I agree with you, Mr. Schultz. This is a unique opportunity for the county. This is not just a wedding venue. This is a venue for a retirement thing. This is a venue for a corporate meeting. This is a venue for many, many different small group gatherings. It could be for a shower for a bride. It could be for multiple different opportunities. There's very little in the county that I know of that would even be close to providing something as unique and as beautiful as this place. Diane has spent about a year and a half acquiring furniture, everything that this place needs to look like, not only the outside of the castle, but the inside. There's everything from an armored knight in there to, there's just all kinds of very, very unique things in there. So in that, you give the opportunity for people to use this, not just for a big bang wedding, but for all kinds of different unique opportunities. And so it is unique in the fact that, yes, it does share some land with a property that's being rented. And those folks that live in that property across the way have approved this. They say it's okay. So I agree with one that was said here earlier that put us maybe a sunset clause in this thing. But I think that you will find, if you have the opportunity to go visit this location, it is unique. And I can see where it would definitely help with the multiple other businesses in the county, from as was stated by Ms. Olson earlier. So I would recommend this being changed, And if you think about it, this place has been empty since 2002. Well, when it was first started, it's been an empty shell for all these years. And now we have this opportunity. And so to move forward in this county to things that are new and different, that maybe isn't here right now. And so let's move it forward and give these folks the opportunity they're asking for. They've done the due diligence, they've done the work, as you've seen when you got the documents in your emails. So I'm in favor of denying the zoning decision and to go forward and let these folks have this location. Thank you.
Supervisor Smith.
I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the economic growth in this county, but if we didn't have an interstate running through it, about half the growth comes from Lake Mills, Johnson Creek, and Ixonia. And here's a perfect example of somebody who's made a tremendous investment into this county. And here we are quibbling over whether it was built pre-72. What are they going to do there? Property values, how many times have we approved things where it somehow is going to have an impact on the neighbor and we found a reason to overlook it? Now, I don't know what the downside of this is, that, they're going to be within the same laws that apply to everybody else. And if things get out of control, then, we're going to have to do something about it, or somebody is. But I can't foresee any reason why this should not be approved, or maybe it's not zoning agricultural, it's got to be zoned for something where it could be approved.
Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start out by asking all the supervisors here in the room to vote no on this resolution. There's two main reasons that I understand for the denial. First one is that it's not ag-related, as was mentioned. And the second one is that the nearby property owner's objection carried a lot of weight. And that was based on a concern about the negative effect on property value, and future renters might object to having a nearby building like that. Regarding the agricultural related objection, I guess I think this is a bit of a stretch, and others have said so too. Wedding barns have no relationship to agriculture either, other than nostalgia. The second line of the resolution and the denial petition that was read earlier states A2 agricultural and rural business zone. And so it seems like they're somehow forgetting about rural business and concentrating on ag. This seems like a perfectly valid rural business to support. And also, at the bottom line of that, on page 28 of the paragraph about denial of the petition, it says, well, those in favor were from people who did not reside in the immediate neighborhood. Well, in fact, I believe that the people who live closest are the renters, and they are not opposed. In fact, apparently they're in favor of it. So they are close. There may be future renters who don't care for it, but right now we have 100% of people who are renting that property who are in favor of it. I think that's a consideration that we should take note of. The property value concern is countered by the recent sale that was mentioned earlier by Diane when she gave her remarks about the 2-acre building site that was purchased for, seemed like plenty of money to me, with the knowledge that this proposal was in the offing. So I think that the concerns about property value and renter hesitancy by the owner of the neighboring property who doesn't live there are his guesses and their conjecture, and I don't think they should carry that much weight. The house was in disrepair before Owens and Elliott took it over. I don't see how a decrepit house next door, if they hadn't continued their work or done their work, I don't see how that would have helped anybody's property value either. So I think that is a bit of a push on that particular item. Maybe even the new owners are doing the neighbor a favor. There are a number of small
or there are several wedding barns in the county, and we know that, and they actually do a pretty good business. But not everybody wants to get married in a barn. Some people might favor a variety, some other variety, or some novelty, something a little bit different than that. It is an unusual situation that we're looking here in acting against the suggestion, the recommendation of a committee or any committee. We don't do that very often. But likewise, it's unusual to have a resolution come up for denial. That doesn't happen either. Usually these things get worked out one way or another. I don't understand quite why this one didn't get worked out, but it doesn't seem like it would be that hard to come to a favorable resolution for all the parties. In the last few years, we've allowed a lot of intrusive uses to go forward, as mentioned earlier, with significant objection even. You can think of, even the photovoltaic power plant that was proposed had an objector of a renter that lived right there. But there was a septic storage tank out on 106, Highway 106. There's a septic storage tank issue that was out in Highway 106 that had a lot of opposition. There was the highway sign company, North of Lake Mills, that went through, and of course the LNG plant. I think it's odd that we would now suddenly draw the line at this comparatively mild proposal. What about these, the coming month includes a number of proposals for rezoning and conditional use that are very close in nature to the one that we are looking at possibly denying tonight. There's out on Danielson Road in Sumner, and I have to find my paperwork here, but there's 5 or 6 like that. And there are some with residences that are within about 100 feet, 150 feet, not unlike what we're talking about tonight. So if this is going to be the new rule, we stand to turn down a lot of proposals that are coming up. The other issues that have been taken care of, you've heard about. I do think that, is this fitting in a residential area? What's more domestic than weddings? There's hardly any other kind of business that's more fitting, I think, in some ways. And I also would say, I don't know if they started on this project prematurely. I would say that a person who's unfamiliar, whether they live in the county or not, unfamiliar with how things go in the county, but happen to look at the history of our approvals, would conclude from that that a simple wedding operation would not be that objectionable and probably would do fine. So I don't think I think it's reasonable for them to conclude that this project should go forward. So again, thanks for your time. I would appreciate if people would vote no for this resolution.
Okay, we will go to Supervisor Renard. We'll not call on anybody until whoever has the first chance to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been some reference to the zoning controversy we recently had in the town of Ixonia. And it's really hard for me not to call out the hypocrisy of the logic here in the denial of petition, that the proposed use is not compatible with surrounding residential uses. Well, it's not a massive industrial complex that changes the rural character of an entire township. It doesn't have hazardous chemicals on it. It's not explosive, but that was all okay with our zoning committee. And this one is really rich. Opposition to the rezoning was heard from nearby property owners. I mean, hundreds of Ixonia residents signed a petition opposing that LNG plant, including all of them directly surrounding the site, except of course, the proposed land sellers. Yet the zoning committee just readily granted the conditional use permit for that facility. So what's our standard here? Do we have one? How am I supposed to explain this to my constituents who feel that, and I think they're right, that the county zoning committee never took them seriously. They never really listened to them. They were dismissed as NIMBYs, but apparently a handful of people here are enough to persuade the committee that this should be denied. I don't think that there's a foundation for us to endorse the decision of the zoning committee. I'm going to vote no on this, and Mr. Chair, I'd like to have a roll call vote.
Okay, Supervisor Morris is next.
Just for clarification, because we've had a couple people mention it. So a yes vote or an aye vote would be to deny the petition to amend.
Correct.
And a no vote would be to approve the petition to amend.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. We'll have that
So-
discussion after the vote.
So what would a no vote mean? That's my question.
In the past, and we'll address that, Blair, but in the past, it has returned to the committee.
Okay.
Yeah, there's two choices. State statutes control what happens tonight. If the county board votes by majority to deny the petition to amend as proposed by the petitioners, it's over, unless they want to take it to the next level, which would be circuit court. If this motion fails, if the resolution to deny the rezoning fails, meaning there's not enough, there isn't a majority vote, then state statutes say it goes back to the Planning and Zoning Committee, not for a decision, but to redraft or to draft an ordinance approving it, at which time it would come back to the county board next month, and the county board will act on approving an ordinance.
Okay. Okay, that was what I wanted to clarify.
Supervisor David, you had your hand up.
Thank you. I'm concerned about this too. Small business is really suffering in this day and age. This is a great opportunity to have small business and enterprise in a rural area. I agree with all the comments that have been made. Amy's comments were excellent. Walt's, everybody's. I'm looking at this on Google Maps. The closest place is about a quarter mile away. Another place might be a third of a mile away. It's not a residential area. The road that it's on, Saucer Road, it's a lightly traveled road. There's not going to be traffic dangers involved. There's just, I don't know. I'll be voting no on this resolution for a couple of reasons. One, I agree with everything that has been stated. But secondly, if we do cause this to be rezoned to A2, then a conditional use permit, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, a conditional use permit will then be necessary to attain, at which time we will get another kick at the cat, so to speak, and we can put restrictions on that allow for control of how many people, parking spaces, time of operation, and things of those natures. So I will be voting no on this resolution.
Supervisor Lund.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with all of my colleagues who have spoken against this resolution. I think this is a unique opportunity. I have not had an opportunity for the council, but would like to. And I think this is something that would greatly benefit the county. I will be voting no on this resolution. I urge all my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Now Supervisor Schultz, you have your second chance.
I have a question. Would it be appropriate to make a motion to amend this to approve it? Would that be okay?
No,
Why not?
because state statutes dictate how it proceeds in this situation.
Okay,
And-
so if it's defeated, then it just will go back to committee?
It'll go back to committee, but not in the usual sense where the committee needs to make some decision-making action. That won't happen. If this motion is denied, it goes back to committee with a directive to draft an ordinance approving the petition.
Okay, and so if we vote no, that's what happens.
If there's a majority that votes no, then I'm going to ask someone to make a motion referring it back to committee to draft an ordinance approving it.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Fitzgerald.
Just two things. I have had a chance to tour the castle, and
Paul and Diana are more than willing to have any of you come and see it. It is absolutely gorgeous, and I agree with all the comments. We would be foolish to let this opportunity fall through, and I know they are not looking to do anything crazy there, anything wild, and I agree. I think it was Supervisor Johns that commented about small meetings, a conference center, retirement parties, showers, all of that kind of stuff. So I will be voting no on this as well. And just to clarify, we need just a majority of votes or a 2/3 vote in order.
Majority vote.
Thank you.
Supervisor Payne.
I agree with all these comments here today, and I will be voting no on this. But I had two comments of my own that I haven't heard. And one was I had looked at the first denial that was made, and all of those concerns were regarding the driveway and the parking, because at first there was a shared driveway. And I read the comments that were on the form. I went to the zoning department and reviewed that. And one of my concerns is that this whole idea that this business was not ag-related or appropriate for that was not mentioned in that first denial, according to what I read. Maybe it was someplace else and I didn't see it. But they did come back and they addressed all of the concerns that had been listed. And here, I have it online. I forgot to bring the paper. But there are numerous, just a whole laundry list of approved uses for conditional use. And I don't understand how these uses are appropriate for this area, but somehow a castle that is somebody's home, they'll have 50 people in it, that's not acceptable, but these are. There are a lot of agriculturals, but there's also meat packing, livestock sales, grain elevators, trap and skeet shoot operations, kennel operations, campgrounds, golf courses, fur farm, salvage yard, and garden center. And the list goes on here. So, so for me, I feel that this is a very appropriate use, a much better use of this area than some of these other items. I think that these different uses would probably be a lot more objectionable. Yet somehow they're on this list. I think that just because this convention center or just wedding events venue doesn't fit into a certain category, doesn't mean that we can't expand the idea of what should be here. So for those reasons, I will be voting no too.
Just a note, it was not denied in the past, it was withdrawn.
Oh.
Supervisor Jacob, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for clarifying that. I wanted to just add a couple of other little qualifications to it. I don't know how many of the supervisors went and toured it, and I would hope, technically, there was not too many of them there at a certain point, that it was an unnoticed county meeting that you were there at. I know how that stuff can affect things, because I got a letter too. But the next thing is, I was on the board when we worked through the Farmland Preservation Plan, I think it was, to qualify old barns as agricultural tourism sites. That there was qualifications as to how they had to. Most of these other conditional uses that have been rezoned to an 82 for these areas have also been small business, like somebody running their own, do I want to say, excavating business or plumber shop. Not somebody that's having 50 people show up at a crack on a 2-acre parcel. And that's all it is a 2-acre parcel. It's not a 5. And that was stated in our reasoning at the zoning committee. If this would have been a larger parcel, which I think they probably could have bought the neighboring land, which is next to them, and qualified it a little easier to make it a larger parcel. but they were probably, I'm gonna just, go off, and say, probably strapped that they couldn't afford to buy more property. So that was one of the early things we said at the time. It was too small of a parcel. You don't see, if somebody's doing a hairdresser business or something in their home, you're not going to see 50 cars or 25 cars. So you got 2 people in each car showing up for 4 to 6 hours a day. That's why the zoning committee denied it. We've denied other ones. Maybe they, like this one here was pulled from the, they asked for it to be dropped the first time around. So that's why there's been other ones that have been that way. Not many of them, but there's been 1 or 2 that have said, okay, we're not going through it. We'll figure out a different plan. So I'm just trying to give you guys a little bit of the thoughts behind the committee. Thank you.
Supervisor Roberts first.
Thank you. I was just wondering if you called your garage a barn and bought a cow, if that would make a difference. Then it could be agriculture.
Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I referred a little earlier to some of the conditional uses and rezonings that are coming up. And there is one that's, I think, important to me, and that is over on Vickerman Road, town of Koshkanon, Rock Road, and Chuck and Kathy Neighbor are seeking a conditional use permit to extend their current conditional use permit for a quarry, for a gravel pit, for 10 years, and add on blasting, crushing, and an asphalt plant. And that's a conditional use permit. There was objections when I went around and talked to all the neighbors there. I went up and down my road, and I went up and down Vickerman Road, and anybody that was close, I talked to, and there were some real objections to that. There were people who were concerned about their basement foundations from the blasting. There was 2 property owners who were really concerned about the truck traffic on that road. Nonetheless, the town did not see a reason to object to it when it came to the town board. We developed a road agreement and so on. But I do think that when we start denying these things that are much less intrusive than the one I just mentioned and some of the other ones on my list here, equipment storage, a sewer and drain company and so on, which are close to other residences. If one resident can seek to deny this and it sticks, we're kind of walking on thin ice in terms of moving forward with our economic development interests. Thank you.
Anyone else? Supervisor Johns.
Yeah, just a couple of clarifications. This is an indoor, elegant space. There will be no music outside. There are no flashing lights. You're not going to have a rock band in a space of a house. These rooms are not that large. The chapel is on the 2nd floor. So on the 2nd floor, you may be able to squeeze 50 in there, but that's it. So there will be no noise outside. There will be no lights outside. And again, there's not going to be a wedding in there 7 days a week. It's going to be used primarily like weddings do, maybe on a weekend. And again, it's a small wedding space as far as weddings go. But many other uses could be 10 people or 12 people or 20. So the variability of using this space is all over the place. It's not a place for a bunch of frat guys or people that come and drink beer and hang out and then drive off into the sunset. This is a very elegant space. It doesn't lend itself to that. It's not a bar. They're going to be bringing in food from the outside. It's going to be very subtle use of a beautiful space. Thank you. I encourage you to all see it.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Supervisor Winnicke.
Yeah, I'm guessing like many of you, I've been kind of going back and forth on this in my head. They seem like nice people, American entrepreneurial spirit. I've heard the themes, it's inside, they don't go outside except to go to the car. Nobody's going to be bothered. I buy all that. My concerns aren't particularly with any of that. I just can't myself get past the idea that we're approving something for agricultural zoning when person after person comes up and says, we're not even going to leave the house. And if you do that, then what's the next person that comes and says, mine isn't agricultural either, but I want to stretch it a little further. And everybody goes, well, it might be in the best interest of the economy of Jefferson County. We're all good guys. We all get to put on the white hat. But, you know, about a year or two ago, there was another one of these sort of controversial zoning requests. And I voted what I've now decided was the wrong way. And I voted because I didn't quite do my homework and I didn't understand the long-term impact that's going to happen. And I regret that to this day. If I could do it over again, I'd have voted the other way. Which leads me to one more thing. I don't know much about zoning and appeals. And that's a great thing for you all, and it's an even better thing for me. These guys have a tough job. They apply standards. They work tirelessly to set up fairly rigid rules. And we follow them when it's convenient to do so. You know, and I'm going to vote yes, and I'm going to vote yes on that one issue that I just don't think you can squeeze this into an agricultural zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? We'll take a roll call vote then.
Supervisor Brockler?
No.
Supervisor Winnicke? Supervisor Coots?
No.
Supervisor Herbst? You're muted.
No.
We have 5 yes, 24 no, 1 absent.
Supervisor Schultz.
Mr. Chairman, I move that resolution number 2021-36 be sent back to the Planning and Zoning Committee with the direction that it be returned with a positive. Is that correct, Blair?
That is correct, that the Planning and Zoning Committee draft an ordinance to effectuate the petition, basically granting the petition as proposed by the petitioners, at which time it will then be referred to the county board for action.
My words exactly. That's my motion.
Do I have a second? Supervisor Morris, okay. Any discussion on this resolution?
Motion.
Or this motion, excuse me. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. It passes. It will return to the committee. This takes us to public comment of a non-agenda items. Is there any public comment of non-agenda items, please? If not, we move to item 20.
Wait.
Supervisor David?
Thank you. I have a few comments.
See right through this phone here.
Yeah, that's all right. I have a few comments to make, and I'd like to do this as kindly as possible and with as much love in my heart as I can manage. You all know me. I've been on the county board, I think 19 years. How long have you been on, Steve? 22. But then I've been on the county board for 20 years. That's a lot of service to put in. I've had an environmental focus most of my career here on the county board. But I'd like to tell you a story. And back in about 1988, I went down to the University of Whitewater and saw Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to speak about the environment, and it really changed my life. It's kind of why I got involved in politics and at a local level. And during that time, and even before, I started to watch what was happening in our government, and I saw the USDA really corrupted by big business. We had a food pyramid put together that changed our nation into a nation of obese, diabetic, very unhealthy people. And it was really through corruption of that government agency by a revolving door policy, as Mr. Kennedy explained to me that night, that there was a continuous revolving door of executives from big business and big ag that really controlled the policy of what was happening in the USDA. The same thing happens with the FDA. We see pharmaceutical companies basically own that particular agency. We see it in the EPA. I forget who the fellow was that was appointed by Reagan. But talk about a non-environmentalist. And really, it was one of the things that drove me into local politics, hoping I could make a change. So I've seen, I think, all of our governmental agencies really corrupted by big business, and I no longer trust them. If they say one thing, I usually say, I wonder why they're saying that, and I go about looking for alternative views, and then I make an educated choice, evaluating what I learn, and use critical thinking and the best of my skills to understand what I should be thinking about. This brings me to what happened 20 years ago, 9/11. I'm sure you all remember it. Planes flew into the towers and they collapsed right into a itty-bitty footprint. And as gruesome as that was at the time, I thought to myself, my goodness, that looks like controlled demolition. And while I know there's been the NIST, I think it is, another governmental agency, came up with reasons why it was the kerosene and the melting and weakening of the girders, but it's never happened anywhere else. And I think that's very suspicious. And maybe it was the planes that brought down the Twin Towers. But I ask you, what about building number 7? Building number 7 collapsed in a similar footprint, yet it was not hit by any plane. It just collapsed in on itself. Was that parasympathetic vibration or something that brought it down about 6 hours after the Twin Towers? Something very suspicious happened then. And I lost all faith in government, and I lost all faith in the media because we were lied to. I'm not sure what actually happened that day. I have speculation. I'm not going to share it with you. But it caused me to question everything big government tells me, everything these governmental agencies tell me, everything that the media tells me these days. I don't take anything for truth now. I go and do my own investigative work. This then brings me to COVID. Too many things about COVID do not count or add up. The death count, and I'd like to run you through some of the things that I've learned now. These are some of the things, I've studied this a lot. I've done huge amounts of investigation, and I haven't changed my opinion much in doing that. On one side, we have private investigations, alternative media, alternative journalists looking into this. On the other side, we have mainstream media, who I don't trust. So there's just too many things. And let me bring you back to about a year and a half ago. In the first 3 months, I'd like to run a few death count comparisons, and I forgot my notes tonight, so I don't have the exact numbers, but there were worldwide approximately 30,000 COVID deaths. During that same 3 months, there was twice as many malaria deaths. There were 10 times as many traffic deaths. There were 70 times as many cancer deaths, and there were 9.1 million abortions. Compare that to 30,000. I say this because I want to put a perspective of what the dangers of COVID are and our reaction to it. And even though those are the numbers, there were lockdowns, and they were discriminatory put into place, and it really hurt our business community. It really hurt our small businesses. We saw how many people showed up, wasn't it 700 and something that one night over in the activity center at the fair park? People are hurt by what is being perpetrated upon us. And we talk about ineptitude of governmental agencies. If we have a Center for Disease Control, wouldn't you think they would have a stock of masks on hand? Wouldn't you think that at the first sign of a pandemic, they would say no airplanes can fly into our country, especially from China? Yet the border stayed open for approximately 2 months when we should have been locking down, when we should have been doing all these things. We had open flights all over the world. We didn't have masks when we decided it was time to wear masks. We didn't have any. We were lied to that by Fauci that masks weren't necessary for a while, and because he wanted to save them for the hospital workers. Well, that's fine. Tell the people that. Don't lie to us about it. So early on, there was no lockdown, and that all of a sudden, there was no solution other than vaccination. Other countries, Sweden, Ecuador, Paraguay, they basically did what they did in any pandemic. They protected the vulnerable. They did worldwide research. They implemented programs where there was free vitamin D, free zinc, and other alternative prophylactic measures, and they essentially attained herd immunity, and real herd immunity, not one brought on by vaccinations, which is awfully sketchy, which I'll come to in a minute. So there was suppression of these alternative therapies, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, nebulized hydrogen peroxide. These types of measures have been implemented around the world in other countries, not the U.S., to great effect, and they didn't have the die-off that we had in our country. Also, the prophylactic measures. Wouldn't you think our government should do something besides lock people down, causing extreme hardship? Or shouldn't they have had a vitamin D handout, zinc, all these things that are known to work, but you can't even talk about them. You talk about these things and you're banned on social media. People that bring these ideas forward are being banned, and their websites are being deleted on YouTube and things like that. There's such censorship about this. It really worries me. In the old days, when a pandemic happened, the old methodology was to protect the vulnerable, to put them into a safe place, to give them the various prophylactic and alternative therapies that are known to work. Nowadays, what we're doing is completely new. We're locking down. We're forcing masks. We're forcing social distancing. Why this big change? We never did a risk-benefit analysis. The consequences of the lockdown are immense. I've had more people contact me about losing their business, about the strife in their families, about thoughts of suicide, various things that are happening because people are so distressed about losing their businesses and their economic means for survival. Masks, social distancing. You know, when you wear a mask, there are consequences to that. First of all, masks, more studies by a factor of 10 have demonstrated that masks are effective. When you wear a mask, it's like trying to stop a mosquito with a chain link fence or something. It passes right through. Yet it harbors all the moisture by your face. If you take one of those masks and have it analyzed in a lab, up to 40 different pathogens are breeding on that mask. It lowers oxygen content. There's just huge consequences from this sort of thing. The loss of social interaction. Look at what is happening to our kids. They're not seeing people with with their face, their facial expressions. They're losing a ton of interaction. What we're doing to our children in schools, I think, is criminally, well, it's not right. You know, there's so many double standards about what is happening with COVID right now. Let me run you through a couple of them. The polymerase chain reaction test, it was never designed to diagnose COVID. It was designed for something completely different. The person that invented that test has said so. He's been banned from all the different social media. The cycle threshold, we changed that. We have changed that a lot. Let me tell you what a cycle threshold is, because I don't think many people understand. What we're doing is we're taking some DNA samples and we're running them and we're multiplying them. At 1 cycle threshold, we double it. At 10 cycle thresholds, we have 1,000 times the doubling. At 20 cycle thresholds, we have 1,000,000. At 30 cycle thresholds, we have 1,000,000,000. At 40 cycle thresholds, we have 1,000,000,000,000. At 45 cycle thresholds, practically everybody on the face of the earth is going to turn out positive. In fact, there have been analyzations of DNA particles from papayas and turtles, and they have COVID, because these cycle thresholds are a manipulatable factor in determining whether or not you have COVID. Now, so when we started testing, we were approximately at 45, but there was no, and it's difficult to find this information out, but different places in the world and different places in the country had different cycle thresholds. But most of the time it was 45. At 45 cycle thresholds, 70 to 80% of the people will have COVID. Now, on the same week that the vaccine emergency approval went into effect, the CDC changed the cycle threshold for having COVID from 45 to 28. Is that a coincidence? It seems suspicious to me. A new definition of vaccine. In the old days, a vaccine was an attenuated virus or pathogen. You'd have to take this thing and you'd weaken it, and then you'd inject it into somebody and they would develop antibiotics. All of a sudden, the new definition of a vaccine is includes gene therapy, which is actually what the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are, is actually gene therapy. It's not the attenuated pathogens, it's actually inscripted RNA particles that actually change your genome. And the other thing about changing the definition of a vaccine is it avoids liability for the corporations. The cause of death definition has changed. In the old, there were contributing factors. Not every death that is happening out there that is being attributed to COVID is actually COVID. In fact, there's a lot of documentation that people that have died from gunshot wounds, people that have died from motorcycle accidents and violent deaths are being listed as COVID deaths. And also, on the death certificate, the cause of death has changed. Now, instead of the contributing factors, which COVID usually is being listed as a cause of death. There has been a change in that, and that happened on just shortly after COVID broke onto the scene. The result is, I believe, that the 500,000, 600,000 listed COVID deaths are grossly wrong. That some estimations are as low as 10% of that are actual COVID deaths. The CDC, let me walk you through a little bit of the CDC history. The CDC used to be a military organization or part of the military, and that was put in place during the Cold War so that we would have a reputable governmental agency that understood germ warfare and protect us from that. Well, in 1986, that was changed. It became a paramilitary organization, and the Vaccine Act of '86 did that. It also removed liability for vaccines from the corporations, the pharmaceutical corporations, and put the responsibility of testing for safety of vaccines on the CDC. And they were supposed to do this on a bi-yearly basis. They've never done it, never. They do not test for that. And there's conflicts of interest turning up left and right about COVID. CDC, Fauci, and a lot of the people involved in the upper echelons of COVID management. Another thing that I'm really distressed about is the censorship of ideas and methodologies. The questionable death count, the changing of the cause of death. Those death counts that we've had, intubation was a standard practice of care. You probably remember the governor of New York needing all the ventilators to protect and save the people. Well, as it turns out, it didn't do it. It was the wrong methodology for saving people. You put people into a coma, you pressurize their lungs, and because of the nature of COVID, it killed a lot of people. The internment of known patients into nursing homes, that was a serious thing. Putting sick people into the most vulnerable population it was the wrong thing to do. Caused a lot of deaths. The lack of prophylactic care, again, wouldn't you think that a government cares would give its citizen every bit of information, hand out free vitamin D, free zinc, things that are known to work and protect people and cause less illness? And certainly the refusal of alternative care, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and there's a few others. Another really disturbing thing is the political alignment of this. Why is it such a Democratic Republican thing? I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm an independent, but I'm very, very concerned that this has become such a divided issue in our country. The vaccine seems so ineffective, it doesn't work. You know, if you've had the vaccine, you're safe, right? Well, no, it seems like you're not. It seems like a lot of the people being hospitalized these days, up to 85%, I've read, it probably varies a lot, are vaccinated people. Why would a vaccinated person get the disease they're supposed to be protected from? The VAERS system, Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. Harvard did a study a few years back, and they estimated that only 1 to 10% of adverse effects are reported to the VAERS system. If you ever looked at the system and tried to make a claim on it, it has an extremely difficult methodology of use, and there has been discouragement of use by medical professionals to report vaccines. Again, these are the things that I've heard. You probably haven't heard these things, some of you. Maybe you have, I don't know. But I want to give you my point of view. Why are there so many inconsistencies? Why is there so much suppression of alternative ideas? Our country's being divided. Our freedoms are being removed. Trust in media and government are at an all-time low. My recommendation is do some research. Look at alternative ideas. Go out of your comfort zone. Take an honest look at what's happening. Seek out independent reporting. Think critically. And I challenge you, if you have comorbidities, do something about it. If you are obese, do something about it. Why should we be responsible for you if you can't take care of yourself? So that's about all I have to say today. I hope I was kind. I do this with great love in my heart, and I hope we can come to terms with this before it's too late. Thank you.
Supervisor Christensen, you want to be recognized by the chair?
Yes, I would. Thank you. I just want to make a public comment, and my public comment is, I believe I heard everything that was just said. I caught most of it. From my understanding, almost everything that David said is wrong. That's my comment. Thank you.
Which takes us from public comment to appointments by the county administrator. Mr. Waymeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. By virtue of the authority vested in me in section 59.18, parent 2, parent B of the Wisconsin statutes, I respectfully request confirmation of the following appointments. Mr. Brian Henny of Waterloo, Wisconsin, to the Jefferson County Library Board to an unexpired term ending December 31st, 2022, and Ms. Alice Merck of Watertown, Wisconsin, Human Services Board for a 3-year term ending November 1st, 2024. I respectfully request confirmation of these appointments.
We have moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor of these appointments, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Then we go to item 21, announcements. Just a reminder, we have 2 meetings coming up in October, on October 12th, and again on Tuesday, October 26th. And Mr. Waymeyer has some announcements.
And just a quick note about October 12th. The Auditor Lawson is getting close to updated design drawings. And so Chairs Nass and I talked about having a free meeting on the first meeting in October, just so you don't have to listen to Potter Lawson and a whole budget presentation. So plan on 6 o'clock, we'll do the updated presentation of the courthouse sheriff jail project here in the boardroom, take a break, and then go right to the regular meeting at 7 o'clock. So, yes, sir. Yeah, it'd be the next meeting, so the October 12th, thank you, Mr. Chair. So October 12th. And then just as a final placeholder, remember we changed the timeline in November. So we're having a special meeting for the sole purpose of having a public hearing on the final plan on November 3rd. They'll be offered by both Zoom and in person at 7 o'clock. So there'll be a final public hearing of the final plan for redistricting with the vote taking place on the following week on November 9th. Thank you.
So just a reminder that it's at 6 o'clock if you want to attend for the informational meeting. There'd be nothing to vote on at that point. Supervisor Smith.
What is the date for the second meeting in October?
October 26th. It's on your agenda sheet on the end too.
Oh, okay.
Seeing no more business to come in front of us, I entertain.
Motion to adjourn.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Supervisor Jacob. Do I have a second? Second for Supervisor Schultz. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
The only board meeting that's